I used to spend money like it was going out of fashion. I'd go to the Poundland shop, or the Dollar Tree, as you know it in America, and I would go for a roll of wrapping paper, birthday paper, and I would come out with £20 in a bag full of plastic tat and snacks that I didn't need. Now that kind of mindless spending is very stressful, and it can lead to debt if you take it too far. But it certainly, in my case, caused me a lot of anxiety about how my income would stretch to cover the basics, never mind anything extra frivolous that I might like. And also, more importantly probably, it stopped me putting money away in savings and investments for the future. So now I'm changing the way I spend money, and I've been documenting that this year on my videos in my low spend year. I've moved from unconscious spending to conscious spending, and the next step that I'm taking is to intentional spending. Now today I'd like to give you a few tips that I've found useful in making progress with my spending struggles, and I hope that they help you if you've struggled in the same way that I have, or you've had different struggles but you tend to overspend and impulse spend. So I hope what's coming up will help you. Hello, my name's Rachel. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, welcome back if you've been here before. Really nice to see you again. Now this video's been prompted by a comment that a lady left on my last video, and she said, "You've done really well, you've become a conscious spender. Now it's time to be an intentional spender." And I thought that is a really good way of putting it, because I have come a long way from my unconscious spending when I buy a load of plastic tat and snacks and not know where my money had gone, not track it, not pay attention to what I was spending, but find out that, you know, by the third week in the month there was no money left, and I didn't want to carry on like that. So now I've got to the point where I'm doing conscious spending, and that has made a big difference in my mindset mostly, but also in my bank account. Excuse me if I have to look down, I've got some notes because, you know, my little bear brain will lose track and I'll womble off on a tangent and I'll completely forget what I'm saying, so that's why I've got my notes. So these tips are helping me to control my impulse spending and stick to my budget and feel good about the way I'm using my money, with the acknowledgement that I need a little bit of flex so that I don't get depressed and feel deprived. But we'll come on to that later on. And it also means that because I'm making more of an effort to have awareness of my spending, that I can make some provisions for the future. The first sort of category of tips is spend shifts. And the biggest one for this is knowing your why. So why do you want to improve your spending? Is it to get out of debt? Is it to save for an emergency fund? Is it to save for a new car because yours is really old and it's not going to last much longer? In my case, it is to retire 2 years early at the age of 65. You can't get your state pension in the UK until you're 67, and I don't want to be working until I'm 67. I'm already tired and I'm not quite 60 yet. So if I could retire 2 years early and fill that gap with buffer money that I've managed to save up, then I can retire a little bit early and enjoy my retirement while I'm still youngish and able to do the things I want to do. The second tip is to think in terms of time and not price. So what I mean by this is, if you pick up a pair of shoes that's £45, say, think about how many hours you would have to work in order to earn £45. When you start doing that, it's really quite impactful, the effect it has on you, because you think, wow, I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't always enjoy my job, and it's very tiring, and I don't get paid an awful lot. So if I think about earning £45 and think of the effort that I have to go into in order to get that money, it makes me think twice about why I'm buying those shoes. So I think that's always a good point to get to when you're thinking of buying something, especially if it's an impulse buy, because you didn't set out to buy it when you left the house. The third one is to be kind to yourself. Give yourself some compassion, as you would do to others, and take in the fact that you are making changes, that you are putting the effort in to change your circumstances. It's all about progress, not perfection, and it's not a fast, instant thing to get to the end result. You have to work at it, and it will be 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 1 step back, and you have to accept that that is the process. That is part of the process, and that's okay. That's normal. That's how we learn things. And finance and money and budgeting is no different from, learning a musical instrument or anything else. You have to practice. So, progress, not perfection. The second category of tips that I wanted to talk about are more practical rather than mindset tips. They're practical things that you can do on a day-to-day basis that will help you move from unconscious spending to conscious spending, and ultimately to intentional spending. And this is how you can develop conscious spending, and it leads the way to intentional spending because you have more awareness of your spending patterns and your mindset and your views on money, whether they've come from childhood or recent circumstances. Things change in our lives where our income changes radically, maybe through divorce or positively, through getting a pay rise. So these things are never static and you have to keep reviewing them. So the first tip is to track everything you spend. Now, when you start out budgeting and looking at your money, I know that in my case, I didn't start tracking everything I spent. I thought, if I write the budget down, miraculously, everything's taken care of. Oh, if it was so simple. But no, writing a budget and sticking to a budget are two very different things. So if you track everything that you spend and put it into categories, so, food, entertainment, petrol, do we have pets, insurance, all that kind of thing. Put it into those categories, and then at the end of the week or the end of the month, take a look at what you've been spending and see whether you spend over your budgeted amount in a certain category. And that's where you can start to work on reducing it and think about why that might be the case. We all have different reasons for spending money. It might be boredom, loneliness, scarcity mindset. You might have some extra money that month and it burns a hole in your pocket, so you've got to spend it straight away. The second one related to this, and possibly comes before it, is to write yourself a realistic budget. And we can all have highbrow ideas about, oh, I'll cut right back, I won't spend anything that I don't need to spend, and I will save lots of money. But life's not like that. One, we are dealing with habits that have been formed over a long time, but also money's emotional, it's not just financial. So our history and our background and our childhood, all of those sort of things affect why and how we spend money. So write a realistic budget. Don't make it too tight, because you will fail and then you will get demoralised and you'll give up. So you have to stick to it. And if you're going to stick to it, you need to feel that it's possible. It might not be easy, but you know that if you apply yourself, you can do it, basically. Another tip is to give yourself some fun money, or effort money, as some people call it. Let's call it fun money. So if you allocate yourself some spending money or some pocket money every week or every month, that gives you that little bit of wiggle room, that bit of freedom where you don't have to justify what you're spending your money on. You still need to track it to make sure that you're not overspending in that budget category, but you don't have to feel guilty about spending it. It's your money, it's been allocated, you can afford that amount of money, and you can just have fun with it. So if you want to go out for a coffee or a beer or a piece of cake, buy yourself, I don't know, in my case, books or stationery, because I have got a stationery habit, then with that amount of money you're at liberty to go and spend on whatever you want. Now in my case, I have allocated myself £60 a month. You might have more available, you might have less available, but that's up to you and whether you can work it within your budget. But I think that stops the deprivation and the sulking that you're missing out. Another way to do it is for certain categories, maybe groceries or the spending money, the pocket money, or entertainment, if you don't take that out of your spending money. You might want to use cash envelopes, so you don't just sort of put it on a debit card or a credit card where you don't notice it, it's done in an instant, out of sight, out of mind. You actually carry physical cash and you pay with that. Or you have a separate card that you allocate money to each month for groceries or whatever category you choose, and you only use that card for that category or those categories. That way you keep track of it, you can just look at the transactions that you've done on that account and see whether you are staying within budget or not. So I think that helps in some categories. You know, when you've done your budget and you're tracking and you see maybe you're overspending on groceries or in your spending money category, you can use this tip to monitor it more closely because you've separated it from your other expenses. Does that make sense? Hope so. Also, unsubscribe from emails and from mailing lists, and also online influencers or social media sites. I think they're quite sneaky. They definitely are sneaky. And you click on them and you think, oh, that sounds like a good bargain. Let's have a bit of that. But you hadn't gone looking for that item in the first place, had you? You know, you just came across it and suddenly it seemed like the best thing that was going to change your life, and you buy it and then you regret it. If you know you're susceptible to online advertising, online product reviews, maybe it would help to delete those for now at least. But also the emails that come through from brands that you've bought with before, unsubscribe, because it's just too tempting. You know, we do it without thinking. It's automatic almost these days. It's too easy, especially if the site has your card details already in the system. I mean, that's lethal. When you're shopping, be more conscious of what you're looking at and what you're about to buy. And ask yourself these 3 things. Do I need it? Can I afford it within my budget and without going into debt? And will I still want and use this item in a month's time? And I think that pause before you just take it off the shelf and go and pay for it, I think that's something to cultivate. Cultivate the pause. Don't react to seeing something you'd like. Respond by asking yourself those questions, considering your budget, and go from there. Put the pause in Give yourself a chance to reflect on whether this item is worth your money, worth your time at work, and whether it detracts from your future plans. So that's always worth doing. Tip number 3 is habits to build to support your decisions, or to support good decisions. So check your bank account regularly and check your spending tracker regularly. If you write these things down and never look at them, then they're pretty much worthless, aren't they? You can only have awareness from seeing patterns in your spending and from seeing the amount you're spending and whether that aligns with your budget and your future plans. Post-purchase reflection is the next tip. When you've bought an item, have a think, sit down, have a think about it. I know personally that there have been things that I've bought and I get excited about them, especially if they're coming through delivery because I've ordered them online, and I get the parcel or I go and collect it from a pickup place, and it's there in its cardboard box and you have to unwrap it, and there's something very exciting about that. It gives you a hit of dopamine, and then you look at the item and then you start using it. So after a few weeks of using it, just consider, do I still like this? Would I buy it again? If it was on sale for half price, would I buy it? And is it useful? Have I used it? Is it still in the box with a tag on? Because when I got it, it didn't light me up, it didn't do what I wanted it to do, or I didn't need it, so I've actually got no use for it. And now I've got the item, what do? Well, hopefully you've still got time to send it back and get a refund. But if you haven't, then, maybe you've got the option of selling it online, but that will be for a reduced amount of money, or you give it to charity. So have a post-purchase reflection moment. And when I've done this, it's been very useful because it gives me pause to think about, was that worth buying? But also, are there any other things that I buy that are similar that if they come up in the future, I won't use either and I'll regret buying? So it gives you a different perspective on things, and I think that's quite useful. Another tip is you could introduce no spend days. So you could have, say, 1 no spend day a week or 2, depending on what you want to start out with. Or you could agree with yourself to have, say, 10, 15 no spend days in a month. You have to set it for yourself, you have to be realistic about what you can start with. If you are used to spending every single day of the week, going to 15 days a month might be a bit of a stretch. It would be for me. Again, be realistic and set yourself a number of days in a month and have a go. See if you can do it, and spend time reflecting on those days about what other things you could do rather than spending money. It'll give you a little bit of insight into why you spend money, and those sort of fidgety moments when you're not sure what to do and you might go and look online at brands that you like and be tempted to buy something. So have some no spend days if you can and see how they feel. They might feel quite uncomfortable at first, but I'm sure with practice you'll get used to them and you'll actually feel quite good about having no spend day. You can also have a gratitude practice. Now, this doesn't have to be writing down 3 things that you're grateful for every night before you go to sleep, although it can do, and that's, it's very useful. But it's just like a general thought pattern about being aware of all the things you already have, being appreciative of having nice things and useful things and things that make your life easier. A washing machine to stop you doing hand washing. We don't even consider that, but if we suddenly lost it, we would really notice the difference. So be grateful, and that puts you in a more positive mindset about your situation. You'll have less desire to fill the gaps or get the things that you think are missing, because you will be content with what you have. You're more likely to use what you have rather than going out to buy an alternative. So you're saving money, but also you're changing your mindset, and that's got to be a good thing. You can also have visual goals. So some people print out, jars with allocated amounts of money in lines going up the jar, and that's for saving. So you can have, £1, £5, £10, whatever. And every time you save that amount of money, you can colour in that layer of the jar. Other people have debt trackers, which can be really handy because you can see every time you make a payment, your debt gets lower. Every time you make a payment, the debt gets lower. And it's nice to watch it happening. I think a lot of us are visual people, and to see progress is a lot easier than just to think progress. So if you want to chart, there's loads online that you can download for free and print them off, or you can make your own, draw one, make your own, and stick it on a cupboard in the kitchen or something so that you can visibly see the progress you're making. And back to the no spend days, you can also buy some stickers. So I like a gold star, and every time you have a no spend day, give yourself a gold sticker. So what if it's childish? It's fun. Let's gamify this. Let's make it enjoyable rather than sort of a penance. So get yourself some gold stickers, reward yourself, remind yourself that you are making progress, and celebrate the wins. It's far too easy just to think, oh my God, I didn't do very well this week and I shouldn't have bought that. But if that's all we focus on, we will give up. There'll be the effort moment and you'll go and spend even more money. So celebrate the wins. Give yourself the gold star, colour in the layer in the savings jar, and make it fun. Okay, so that's the tips that I've got for you. I hope some of them are helpful. I'd love to hear any tips that you've got that will help me. Intentional spending's putting your money to things that matter to you. So it's based around your values and your likes and your future plans. So if you hate going to nightclubs, don't spend your money going to nightclubs. Spend it on what's important to you, what brings value to your life, what will improve your life in terms of, saving a bit of money, having an emergency fund, that kind of thing. And by doing so, you give yourself a sense of freedom because you aren't trying to cover all bases. You aren't trying to keep up with the Joneses because their likes and dislikes are probably very different to yours. So be true to yourself, be true to your own values, and spend your money intentionally. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell so that you don't miss any notifications for new videos that I'll be putting out. Leave your comments down below. Thank you to the lady who left that comment, which has made me think a lot about my spending and has been really useful and prompted this video. Okay, I'll see you next Saturday. Bye.